You're kidding. Just one shot?
They're not all zombies, Doug. How do you fight this thing?
Maybe we could drown it in A1 sauce.
Well, sometimes that is better. The person you put up there ain't the person that comes back.
It's a dance song to get down with. About 6 feet under. Get there.
Ooh, I love this song. I'm hung up in a grave situation.
And now we come to the thrilling final episode of our radio drama.
Hello and welcome to episode 144 of the Rotten Views podcast. Hopefully you guys are all having a good day, good evening, or afternoon whenever you guys are listening to this podcast or watching it on YouTube. I appreciate you guys coming back for another week, another new episode. I don't know why you're back, but I appreciate it nonetheless, and it does mean a lot. I think and I hope we have a really fun one set up for you guys today. I have not watched this movie, but I've been wanting to watch it. It came out in 2021. That being said, I really enjoyed the first 3 movies in this series, and now they are remaking or rebranding the series. But hey, on the plus side, at least the original writer is back to work on this one. And we're going to be watching, as you already know by the title, we're watching Wrong Turn from 2021. But before we get into that movie, I just want to, promote out there, do a little self-promoting. If you guys haven't, definitely check out the Instagram page and Twitter and the Facebook page, but most importantly, the YouTube channel, which will be linked down below. Everything will be linked down below. We are doing a giant push on the YouTube channel still, and I still see it growing, so I appreciate everything that's happening, and I appreciate you guys enjoying the gaming videos, the podcast videos, and the other various short videos that I've been doing. It does mean a lot to me, so thank you for keeping, showing support and coming back each and every week. It does mean a lot to me. Definitely go check it out. Hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell notifications, and if you can, if you're listening to this on Spotify, leave a star rating. If you're listening to it on Apple Podcasts, leave a review. Whatever other app you're on, if there's any rating system, just go ahead and leave a review there too. But we're gonna get into the movie because it's a Friday night here. It's almost 11 o'clock and it's goddamn hot as hell. It's 11 and it's 21. I don't know what that is in the conversion for you Americans and everyone else, but it's pretty hot here, and there's no breeze whatsoever. So I want to get this podcast started, and I want to get this movie watched because I'm sweating buckets, because I don't want to have a fan on or AC on, because then it's just going to create some more background noise, and I don't need that in my podcast. So with that being said, we're going to get right into our movie. Like I said, it came out in 2021. The director is Mike P. Nelson, which I looked him up. I got nothing on him, really. None of his other movies show any interest to me, and I have not seen a single one of them, so I'm not going to talk about it. But like I said, Alan B. McElroy is the writer for this one. He's also the original writer for the first one. I'm not sure if he did any one in between that. He also was the writer for Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, the John Cena movie, The Marine, because everybody wants to point that fucker out. And he was also a writer for 8 episodes of Star Trek Discovery from... Okay, that's weird. It says 2019 to 2024. We're not in 2024 yet, but that's fine. He also did a couple episodes of Vampire Diaries for anyone who really cares about that. He also was a writer for, or actually, he just says he's got characters based on for Wrong Turn 4 and 5, which makes sense because he's the one that originally did the creations and stuff. But yeah, this movie has a 5.5 out of 10 on IMDb, 65% on Rotten Tomatoes, and 2.6 out of 5 on Letterboxd. 72% of Google users like this movie. Our original release date was February 25th, but it's saying in Germany. But whatever, which is so weird. It's distributed by Saban, which I know personally for all the Power Rangers and the, I think, Ultraman maybe, and Big Bad Beetleborgs and all those kind of shows. So the fact that they're doing horror movies, I heard they're titled or tagged in with horror movies, it's just so weird. But yeah, the had a box office of $4.8 million, which I think is, probably pretty good. I'm not sure how much it cost to make the movie, but, it is what it is. And a quick synopsis. Despite warnings to stick to the Appalachian Trail, hikers stray off course and cross into land inhabited by a hidden community of mountain dwellers who use deadly means to protect their way of life. Slowly under siege, the friends seem headed to the point of no return, unless one man can reach them in time. So yeah, that's not bad, I guess. And of course, we're looking on IMDb for the classic tagline: "This land is their land." Creative, so great. Trivia: not connected to any of the direct-to-video sequels of the Wrong Turn series. Wow, I'm so glad you spent so much time on trivia section. Thank you, IMDb. I appreciate that a lot. So much time. I can't believe how much time you spent on that. Anyways, we're just gonna get right into the movie because I don't want to read the goofs, because it's just going to spoil something. I already can tell. So yeah, we're just going to get right into the movie. Like I said, Wrong Turn 2021. I know it's a newer movie, so if you guys haven't watched it, feel free to pause this podcast here. Feel free to go find yourself a copy, on Amazon, wherever you want to purchase it or digitally rent it. I'm not sure where you're going to find it, but I had my own means of finding this movie because I wanted to find it. So feel free to pause it and then come back later, or just be known that you're going to hear some spoilers throughout this because I talk about the movie from start to finish very much. So if you don't want to be spoiled, now's your time to pause it or maybe check out one of the older episodes. Either way, I appreciate it, and we're going to get right into the movie.
Presents Saturday Night at the Movies, the television series which each week brings you the finest in recent motion pictures. Tonight,
do you know what we wouldn't have found if we would have stayed on the trail? The waterfall, the cliff. What is that?
I saw someone. I did. I saw someone.
My country 'tis of thee.
It's a story people know but don't talk about. Except in whispers, like a ghost story.
Sweet land of liberty.
We don't bother them. And they don't bother us.
Of thee I sing.
But anyone who goes up there, what is this place? They don't come back.
Fathers died.
It's happened before.
Pilgrim's pride.
Descendants of these people are still living up there on the mountain?
They said they would be the foundation on which a new nation would be built.
From every mountain let freedom ring.
Movie starts out with that nice giant Lionsgate intro. Then we also see again that it's by Saban, or Saban's part of it, which is still really weird to think of because of all the Power Ranger tie-ins. But that's all right. It's no big deal, right? And then as the logos are popping up, you can hear that's like a nighttime sounding crickets and everything going on. I guess trying to set the mood. Hopefully, once these intro images are done, we can actually see if we're in nighttime. And we see like a little campfire going. The sparks kind of shooting up, kind of deal, and then an ambient music starts playing in the background a little bit, kind of to set the mood a little bit more. And then we just cut, and it's fucking daytime now, as we see some gentleman driving a vehicle. I'm sure if I looked at the IMDb page quickly, I could figure out who this guy is, but I haven't. But yeah, he's driving through this little country-looking town, sporting a Nissan. Can't say there's anything wrong with that. Fellow Nissan driver here, an owner. So that's fun. Then he stops outside this big building that has a sign on it saying it's a pancake breakfast. And we find out it looks like it's at the sheriff's building. It's the whole the same thing. But apparently he's looking for his daughter who's gone missing. And the sheriff's looking through photos of her. He's like, who's the black fella? It's like, the doesn't really matter. We're looking for my daughter, not the black guy. Apparently his daughter was going to keep, track of where she is, and the last message she got was from this town, and we find out that she's been missing for 6 weeks now at this point in time. Upon checking IMDb quickly, this guy's name is Matthew Modine. He's playing Scott Shaw, who's also the doctor from Stranger Things. Dr. Martin, so that's kind of fun to see. A little crossover. Some Stranger Thing with Wrong Turn. I'm always up for that. But anyways, the sheriff's not too helpful at all, and pretty much the same. I'm sure your daughter's just gone off and just decided not to talk or communicate, and that's when he's like, my daughter's not like that. So then he's like, fine, here's this piece of paper, fill out this missing persons report, and give me as much detail as possible. That way we can try and figure this out, so we can try and find your daughter, who's probably just screwed off somewhere. Then the dad goes to check in at the inn where she was staying and her friends were staying, and the lady's like, well, they must have just left really early in the morning because I didn't see them leave at all, but they're probably just trying to beat the traffic and stuff. Like, traffic? What traffic in your little town is there? You're up in the woods in the middle of nowhere. There's not going to be any goddamn traffic that they have to worry about. But then we just see like a montage of the shots throughout the town as the dad's driving through, just trying to find any clues as to where his daughter might be. And he's driving by this hillbilly truck that has a deer tied to the hood. I'm not sure why they do that. What, you got a truck bed. Why do you tie a deer to the hood of your truck? It doesn't make any sense, but then again, I'm not a redneck, so why would I know? And then he's stopping at a bar, and this guy's like, did you lose something? He's like, yeah, I lost my daughter, Jennifer. She passed through here with 5 of her friends, and they're all missing. And then the guy at the bar is like, yeah, I've seen them, goddamn yuppies. He's like, I think they maybe went north. Not really too sure, to be honest with you, though. Probably got lost somewhere in those woods. Ain't gonna ever find their way home if they got lost in those woods up there. And dad's just like, I don't really believe that. I'm sure I'll find them. And then the redneck at the bar's like, hey, believe what you want, but out there, nature's gonna eat everything that it catches. Eats it right down to the bone. Doesn't care if it's a cute girl or not, it's still gonna eat it. Then the dad, being the dad, is like, you have kids? The guy just stares at him and is like, what would you do if you had kids? You would find your kid, right? And he kind of just stares off like, nah, probably not, to be honest with you. And then he sips his beer and he says like, glad he's gone for the night. Then we have a little time jump, and we're 6 weeks earlier as we see them driving their like Suburban down this country road, and it says, welcome to Virginia. We can just assume that's the 6 people in the SUV, as we see one girl just taking pictures of her feet as they stick out the window. Oh, good way to get your feet snatched off there, lady, if another vehicle comes by and it's a hillbilly that just wants to rip you out. Yeah, that's fine. Then we see Jennifer, the daughter, in the front seat, in the passenger seat, as her boyfriend's trying to comfort her because you can tell she's very nervous. And they go to have this nice little comforting kiss as he takes his eyes off the road, and shocker, one of the tires blows on the SUV and they almost crash, but they save it. And then it's actually one of the girls that's just changing the flat tire, and he's like, I think it's Darius, he's like, you're like making me look bad. And the girl who's taking pictures of her feet, she's like, girl power. Like, why aren't you doing something then? So taking fucking pictures all the time. And that's when Jennifer's like, yeah, my dad taught this, how to be an independent woman and whatnot, and how to survive doing the basics and whatnot. And this whole time while she's changing the tire and everyone else is standing outside the vehicle, we can tell someone's up in the woods looking down, watching them as they're getting ready to drive away now that the flat tire is fixed. And then we see them pulling up to the inn where the father was there to check in to see when the last time the innkeeper saw them. Innkeeper, is that the right hostess? I don't know what the right term is, but it's fine. They're all grabbing their shit though at the back of it because it's a Suburban, it can hold a lot of shit. And that's when we find out they had 3 rooms for 2 nights, so apparently they weren't planning to stay too long. And then Jennifer's like, I'll keep everyone in control, don't worry. And the innkeeper's like, have you been here before? Like, no, it's the first time, just here to do some hiking. She's like, a little piece of advice, make sure you stay to the marked trails. You don't want to get off the trails because it's going to be some bad news for you, because there's hillbillies in those woods that are going to kill you. But that's besides the point. It's fine. If you want to go off the marked trails, who am I to tell you no? Then we see them at this bar where the dad was checking in earlier, and we see the guy who mentioned how he saw the kids. He's playing pool there. That's when the guy then comes over to the table to talk to the kids. Like, you guys aren't here from around here, are you? That's when Darius picks up, we're here for a couple days just to do hiking up in the trails and whatnot. And the one friend was being a jackass because he's like, we're in bumfuck nowhere, and there's a black man with a white girlfriend, and then we also have a gay couple as well. So they're sticking out like a sore thumb. And that same douchehad friend's like, yeah, you're just gonna be right around the shitty truck sipping some moonshine, aren't you? That's when the guy's like, what'd you say, Peckerhead? And the cocky friend pretty much shuts up pretty fucking quickly. So the little guy gets pissed off. He's like, you guys haven't worked a fucking real day in your life because you're a bunch of hipsters on child funds. That's when Jennifer speaks up saying, you're wrong about that. And that's when we find out Darius runs this non-profit thing, and she starts listing off all the things that their friends are doing. It's like, I don't think it's really going to help in this situation, to be honest with you. You probably should just shut up. That's when Jennifer mentions, I see some yellow in your eyes. When the one friend goes on, he's like, yeah, it could be multiple things, jaundice or liver disease or problems, whatnot. Probably go see a doctor when, the next doctor is in. But, that's besides the point. But, have a good day, right? Thank you. Bye. And that's when the cocky friend gets up with his fiance, apparently, and starts dancing around the bar. And the music starts to change, and you can hear the people, you can see they're talking, but you don't actually hear them talking. It's kind of that kind of shot. And the townspeople are watching them, paying more attention to them now at this point in time. But now it's, time's over, time to get to the bar, and they're leaving, they're going out to the car, and that's when they see someone just staring into their vehicle, and they're like, hey, probably one of those assholes from the bar. And then we just see someone, like a black silhouette of someone, and then they're just staring at them with the head like tilted sideways. And then the cocky guy decides to throw a beer bottle at him. It's like, maybe you shouldn't piss off everyone in this town because they're planning to stay in there for 2 days. And then next thing you know, the shadow's gone by the car, and they're just like, okay, time to go home. Well, not home, but to the inn. And they're like, where the hell did the guy go? He's like, I don't actually know, to be honest with you, but we'll just go on with our life like it's no big deal. That's when we then see Jennifer in the inn, finally calling her dad for the last time, just saying, once she gets back, she'll have an answer for what's going to happen. I don't know what the question was, but it is what it is. And then we just cut to her and her boyfriend in bed talking about, relationship crap, which doesn't really make a difference in the movie because they're probably going to both die, or at least one of them's going to die out of the two. I'm assuming Jennifer's the lead, so she's probably going to survive, but be messed up probably. As Darius mentions how he's got this mindset for this perfect community where it's more about what you put into the community than what your bank account is. And she gets all hot and heavy about it and gets on top of him. But at this point in time, we see the shadow of someone outside their window just kind of peeking in. And then we cut to the next day, and Jennifer's out for a jog. Because, you guys aren't going to be hiking trails the whole time. But, that's fine. Go for a jog, too. That's when as she's in her jog, she stops at this person who's knitting on the back of a tailgate of a truck. I don't know what the hell she's making. I really don't. I don't. And then she goes to say hi to the little girl who might be her sister. But yeah, then she gets scared and runs away. But then we see a better view of what the girl's making, and it's kind of like bracelets, I guess. It's weird. It's weird hillbilly stuff. So Jennifer goes to buy one anyways because, she wants to support the community, I guess. And then we see them all getting ready to go on their hike, and the one girl who was taking pictures of her shoes is vlogging the whole situation, or at least maybe doing a little reel or a post about it, because she's got the phone in, selfie mode as she's walking with her fiance, who's a complete dickhead. I'm not sure, maybe it's just the alcohol that makes him a dickhead, or if he's just a dickhead in general. And we just see some shots of like the tree level and them hiking through. They come to this cave with a little bit of waterfall, and there's just these other various shots, building up the timeline of how far they've gone into the woods and how hard it's probably going to be for them to escape the woods because, the hillbillies in the woods are going to come after them. Then they come to this like nice cliff top where they're looking over at the high tree lines. You can tell they're yelling and screaming, but we just hear this ambient music playing, which sets up a really nice shot. The way it's been filmed so far, I enjoy it a lot. I think it looks really nice, and it's well done so far. And Darius says, hey, a little bit of sidetrack. There's apparently a really well-preserved World War, fort around here, so we'll just, take a little detour off the trail and go find it and hopefully take some pictures with it. And that's when Jennifer's like, the clerk at the inn said we shouldn't leave the trail at all because bad things will happen to us. He's like, come on, we'll just go over a couple hills, it'll be fine. If we don't see anything, we'll just come back on the main trail and we'll be fine. And then he pretty much convinces Jennifer to do it, and then there's like, we're going off the trail. Yeah, you guys are going to die now. And guess what, Darius? You're kind of black, so you might die first, but the two gay guys might give you a run for your money as well if it's any typical horror movie. Let's be honest now. Then as they're walking down this side trail that's not really a trail, the selfie chick almost falls down the whole side of the cliff because she loses her footing, probably because she's too busy looking at her phone. And then cocky guy's like, how much longer are we going to be here? My fiance almost died. He's like, oh, it's just a little bit farther. I'm sure it's just right over the hill here. Don't worry about it. Stop being a bitch about it. And then they stop at this random spot in the wood, and they're like, well, what's that? I hear something. And then next thing you know, there's a giant ass log falling down the hill at them, like Final Destination. And instead of running on either direction, they just run down. I mean, the log's only so big. If you guys run left and right, you'll avoid it. But no, we're gonna run down the hill because that makes the most sense, right? Anyways, they go crumbling down the hill, and the log's following them. And I think it's one of the gay guys literally gets sandwiched between the log and a tree. I think it was one of the gay guys. Yeah, I don't think he survived that. Pretty sure he didn't. Could be wrong. Then we see the newly fiance couple regaining their stamina and getting back off their ass as they're bloody now and beat up. And the fiance is not too happy because she's like, you left me, you fucking asshole. You left me. Because, I guess he kind of like pushed it off to the side maybe and just ran off for herself. I don't have to outrun everyone. I just got to outrun you kind of mindset. And then Jennifer and Darius are, coming back too. And we see Darius's finger. It's pretty fucking broken. It's like bent completely the wrong way altogether. And then that's when they're like, oh, we got to go find our other friend. And that's when they find the one gay guy looking down at his lover who's sandwiched between two trees. Wish I would have got their names, but the one guy's dead, so it doesn't really matter right now. I believe the surviving one though is Lewis because I just looked it up on the IMDb, and the one who's already passed away is Gary. So now we know that. I'm not going to keep track of the people's names though. I'm going to be honest with you on that one. I'm definitely not going to keep track of their names at all. And Darius like, I'm going to climb up higher ground. I got my cell phone. Hopefully I get some service, and we'll get an ambulance to come out here. Even though we're in the middle of nowhere. I don't know. Maybe if your GPS is working, that'll help you out a little bit. But then Lewis gets angry, and the douchehead guy, he's like, it's not Darius' fault. He didn't make the tree fall. It just happened. Well, kind of is his fault because we want to go off on the trail, but that's besides the point. The clerk did tell you to stay on the trails, the marked trails, so that's your own fault, I guess. And then Jennifer's looking up the hill a little bit, and that's when she sees one of the hillbillies peeking out around the tree, and Darius goes to look up as well. But at the time that Darius looks up, and he's like, there's nobody there. And then he doesn't really believe her, and she's like, I saw someone. I know I saw someone. They're right there. I saw them. And then we see a selfie chick lady, who's apparently a nurse of some sort, fixing Darius's broken finger, snapping it back into place, and putting like a little shim on it and wrapping it up. He's all buried now. God forbid you have a broken finger. At least he's not like the guy who has a broken face, because it's squished by a tree against another tree. But, worse things could have happened, right? Next thing you know, they're walking, and it's pouring out, and it's nighttime. So I'm not sure where they're planning on going, if they're setting up a camp somewhere, or what the plan was, because I know they're staying there for 2 days. But were they planning on camping out there, or were they planning on hiking so far, then going back to the inn, and then maybe take a different spot? I don't know. But Lewis is pretty pissed off. He's like, this is working out great for us, guys? So then they decide they're going to have to camp out for the night. And Adam, the dickhead guy, is, he's apparently a nice, understanding guy when he's not drunk, because he starts consulting and comforting Lewis. He's like, he believed once the other guy died, his body went on, his soul went on, and that's just his vessel stuck in the woods. And then next thing you know, they have a camp set up just like that. All set and ready to go. At this point in time, they're all asleep inside the tent, and then some thunder and lightning starts going off, and Jennifer wakes up, and then when another lightning bolt cracks, we actually see the shadow of someone outside the tent, and she kind of gets a glance of it. But then once the lightning comes back again, there's no one actually there that she can see, at least at this point in time. And we cut to the next day, and it's all nice and sunny, and they're waking up like, it's just a nice day out in the woods camping. No big deal. It's not like our friend just died yesterday. But that's besides the point. And then it's the next day, and they realize Mila, the nurse girl, is apparently missing, and none of them felt her get up in the night or early in the morning. And that's when Adam also realizes they're sleeping in a graveyard, because there's little tombstones hidden behind the grass. And then Lewis, the survivor who lost his spouse, is wondering where his phone is, and wondering if someone took it, because his phone's gone. And they're like, well, maybe he just lost it somewhere. And then Jennifer's looking, and her phone's gone as well. Shocking. So at this point in time, we find out Mia is still missing, and everyone's phone is missing as well. So maybe she was just glued to the phone, and they just had to take her with it because she wouldn't let go of the phone. That's when then Jennifer mentions that she thinks she saw someone outside the tent in the middle of the night last night, but she thought maybe she was just seeing stuff because she didn't actually see them anymore after the next lightning strike. Then they started searching for Mila, but then then they run into the little girl that was from the town earlier that was wearing the crown, who was scared to even talk to Jennifer originally. And they're pretty much just having a stare off in the woods because that's safe and not weird at all. That this little 10-year-old at most is standing in the woods, but that's fun. And then they run off into the woods, and Adam chases after the little kid, and Jennifer's chasing after him because she's like, you gotta relax, you're scaring the kid, which is probably understandable, but she's from an inbred hillbilly family, so it's fun. Then as they're running, Adam gets tripped up by a chain, and then next thing you know, his foot is stuck in said chain, and said chain goes tight a little bit, and then next thing you know, he's starting to get pulled through the woods because this chain's getting pulled in now. And Adam gets pulled in with this chain and falls down into this hole that's made in the ground, and they're screaming for him because now they're all together, and Adam's not answering them at all because they can't see Adam in the hole either because all it looks like is a bunch of leaves and twigs and stuff underneath this hole, and there's no sign of Adam. But there is a sign of Snake, which scares the shit out of Darius, which is kind of funny. And then of course Jennifer and Darius are arguing because Jennifer wants to get the fuck off the mountain and get home and get help, but Darius is like, we'll just get the snake out of the way and then I'll get in there and I'll be able to find Adam. It's like, no, it's not that simple, to be honest with you. And then she takes a stick and puts her plaid on it to mark where Adam went missing, and is like, yeah, let's go. And they're like, okay, I guess we're all leaving now. And it's just the three of them now. It's Darius, Jennifer, and Lewis. I get Lewis and Adam mixed up for some reason. I don't know why. Anyways, they're walking, and then they find this shed, which has a bunch of backpacks and coolers inside of it, which should probably give some clues of what's going on, because the mountains shouldn't have a lost and found, let's be honest now. Kind of thing that I like. Now they're building up the backstory of these characters, because now we see a bunch of book bags, we see keys, we see coolers, we see glasses, and we can tell that they've been doing it for a while and they haven't been caught since because they're good at what they're doing, essentially. And that's when they then hear someone outside and they see the two guys in a ghillie suit carrying a log that has Adam pretty much chained to it, like a pig roast almost. And Darius like, oh, that's Adam. So he grabs something out of the shed and literally starts booking it through the woods to chase after them. And they actually stop, and he's got a hatchet in his hand, and they actually put Adam down. And the thing is weird because they're in a ghillie suit and they have deer skulls on, and they're talking to him, but it's not in English at all, so they have their own language now. Then as the three of them are arguing with the two in ghillie suits, Adam pops up out of nowhere, untied with the bag off his head, and he grabs a piece of wood, which might have been the wood he was tied to, and literally knocks out the one guy and starts smashing his face in, and we see blood going all over the place, but it's like, is the other guy just standing there watching the whole time? Because I didn't see it hit the second guy. I only saw you hit the one guy. And he pretty much caves in his skull with this piece of wood, but it looks like it was dead wood, so after the first hit it would have broke, but that's okay. But then they realized the other guy in their skull was vanished somehow, even though there's four of you guys standing there, and he was literally almost right beside you guys, and you just let him disappear like that, like it was nothing. Then Adam's like, I had to do it. They killed Mila. I know they killed Mila. And then Mila comes out behind the bushes, and she's like, Adam, what's going on? What's going on here? And it's like, she notices the dead person on the ground. It's like, the fuck happened? He's like, I was gone for a little bit. And then Adam's like, you're alive. He's like, okay, who did I see that was dead? Apparently Mila went for a pee. She saw the two guys in the ghillie suit with the deer skulls, and she decided to hide in a bush and wait it out because what was going on, which doesn't sound suspicious at all. And Jennifer starts questioning Adam's like, did you just kill this man for no reason? He's like, well, they dragged me into a hole and had me draped like a Christmas turkey. I don't know what the hell they were going to do to me, so yeah, I fought for my life. So if you want to be mad at me for surviving, go fucking right ahead. And then we have the group, kind of arguing between each other as they're making their way through. One of them wants to go straight, and it's like, that's a cliff. And then the other one's like, yeah, we should have took some hiking gear. Like, no, we're supposed to act like that we weren't here. And then it's like, oh yeah, we just gotta act like we did nothing wrong, I guess, right? There's just a little annoyed at everyone. He's like, how about we just fucking relax? And then he goes to walk off to, catch his breath a little bit, and he hits a tripwire, which then has this giant log tire or rim that comes down that has spikes out of it, and he literally gets it right in the chest. Then Adam's just like, hey, yeah, I guess they're friendly people now, aren't they, huh? They got booby traps set up all over these woods. Real friendly people now, aren't they? Mila is then going to check on Darius, who has like one of the spikes gone right in like the shoulder, which looks like it really, really sucked, to be honest with you. I bet you guys are really regret going off the marked trail there, aren't you? You should have stayed on the trail the whole time. Probably would have saved at least one friend's life, but that's okay. So at this point, they're walking through the woods, and Lewis, who's at the back of the pack, actually gets stolen by one of the hillbillies, who literally just comes up running up behind him, grabs him, doesn't make a sound, and just runs off with him like it's no problem. And Jennifer looks behind her and is like, where's Lewis? And then they hear people running through the woods, you know, pretty much circling them at this point in time. It's like, guys, we probably have an issue right now. I think we're surrounded, to be honest with you. Adam freaks out because, you know, he thinks the hillbillies are right there. So then he starts running down through the woods, and that's when we then see a couple of the hillbillies coming out of the ground, essentially, because they've been hiding in the ground underneath the grass and whatnot. And then everyone else decides to run off for the life, which makes sense. I would run too if I saw a deer skull coming out of the ground randomly, and there's like 3 of them all around me, but that's just me. And then Mila's running after Adam, and she falls in a hole and like gets the chest, like her chest and throat up against the edge of the hole, and then falls back into the hole, and it's just wooden spikes all over the place. And she wants help getting out, but she's dead. You know, she's not actually dead yet, but she's going to be dead in a matter of minutes because she's got them through her legs, I think through an arm, through her chest. Not much we can do about that, Mila. I don't think we have enough meds to help you. And then Adam's like, you know what, I'm gonna go get some help. I'll be right back. How about you give me about 5-10 minutes? Don't bleed out though, okay? I'll come back and get you, I promise. And she's swearing at him because she's really pissed off about it. Then within seconds of Adam leaving, one of the hillbillies shows up with one of the deer skulls and the ghillie suit on with a bow, and she's just saying, help me. He literally just bows her right in the face. It's like, you literally, Adam just left 2 seconds ago. How did you pop up so quickly? But we're not going to ask questions. It's a horror movie. That's fine. Adam then gets tripped up by another trip line, which is actually a vine. And while he's face down on the ground, one of the hillbillies comes up behind him, puts a burlap sack over his face, and he gets dragged off into the woods again. And then we see Darius and Jennifer running through the woods. And they're hiding in like this almost like cave looking area. Then as they're hiding in this like rock area, Jennifer's shoulder gets touched by one of the hillbillies, and she screams and runs off. And then they run and hide up against this other rock area. And then next thing you know, Darius is grabbed by the shoulder and literally pulled up the rock cliff. And then Jennifer goes to turn to walk away, and one of the hillbillies is standing right there. And next thing you know, she's knocked out. And then we see the dad back at his house with his stepwife, whatever, and her 2 kids. And he's like, hey, have you heard from Jennifer at all? She's like, why would she call me? She doesn't even like me. So then he calls her, and there's no answer at all. We find out the dad's trying to get her some fancy job where she's going to have her own coffee maker and her own office and this and that, and how it's been a couple weeks now, and it's kind of weird because every time he calls her, it goes straight to voicemail. Then we see Jennifer waking up in this like rock well area with a wooden gate on top, and her hands are tied. It looks like she's in her like bra and underwear. Then the gate opens, and the girl on top who's opening the gate is the girl who was selling the bracelet. And he's like, you better shut your mouth if you want any food or water. And then she closes the gate back down on her. Then the gate opens again, and a bucket gets lowered down with an apple inside of it and some water. And then a ladder gets set down as well, and we see Jennifer crawling up the ladder to the top. That's when we find Lewis, Adam, and Darius all in their muscle shirts and boxers as they're getting burlap sacks all put on their heads, and they're all tied up. They're being escorted through the woods where they come up to this giant fence, and they're led inside this fenced off village, which is like old time settlers almost, but it's the hillbilly community, I assume, because we see the little girl there as well that Adam was chasing earlier that was scared to talk to Jennifer at the truck where they're selling the bracelet. Yeah, this village like lives in a whole different timeline because you got like a blacksmith there pounding on the metal to make an axe or maybe a sword. I wasn't really paying attention, to be honest with you. And then there's also someone like beating the crap out of a fur to try and make it into clothing and whatnot. And then they get brought into this chapel looking area which has a bunch of pictures up on the wall that might be previous hillbillies, maybe. And then inside this chapel, they're made to kneel down in front of this like ceremony room where, I don't know, it's a Illuminati of hillbillies. And that's when the head honcho's like, this is court, you're on trial for murder. And I was like, we didn't murder anyone. And then he gets slapped in the back of the head because, well, yeah, actually you did get murdered or on trial for murder because you murdered someone, and they know They know everything in the woods. Then during this whole court thing, the surviving hillbilly who originally had Adam on a stick was just saying, you know, they found Adam in one of their traps, knocked out when they were looking for moose and hunting for the elk, getting ready for the winter, and that's when they were going to take him down the mountain. That way someone would find him, and that Adam just viciously attacked him and his brother and killed his brother, and there was no cause or reason for it, and he's just, you know, he's just a very bad man. And that's when then Jennifer lies for them. He's like, no, he didn't murder him. I don't know what you're talking about. It's all bullshit. And then two other guys bring in the carcass of the dead brother and put it in front of him. It's like, oh, really? You didn't murder him? How did this happen? So then they sentence Adam to death to pay for his crime, and he gets out of his, you know, ropes that he's tied up with, and he grabs the little girl that was in the court and pretty much holds a knife up against the rope, being like, hey, you want her to die too? She's gonna die too. You better just let me go. And the little girl somehow pulls a knife out and gets Adam right in the leg, and she gets free, and he drops to the ground. And the next thing you know, he's getting grabbed by a bunch of other hillbillies, and they're all getting sacks put back on their face because they're all getting sentenced to death now. We then see Adam laying on a table where he's tied up onto the table, and he also has like rope across his mouth, for some piece of fabric across his mouth, so he can't say a word anymore as well. Then we see the judge be like to Jennifer, well, how did he get murdered? How did our friend get murdered? And she's like, well, he got, you know, hit in the head. So that's when he then grabs his stick. He's like, oh, with this one, huh? And he gets ready to whale Adam in the face. That's when she tells him to stop and saying, you know, we'll be able to, you know, give you money, anything you want, just please don't do this. And that's when the judge goes on about how everyone works for what they want in this town, and how there's no cancer in this town. There's nobody that hates each other. We're all one community, and we're all one person fighting together, walking together to, you know, fight the crimes and the, you know, civilization, essentially. It's then at this point in time that the judge takes the stick and starts caving in Adam's skull right in front of all of them, and yeah, his skull is pretty much gone at this point in time. Then the other three are sent to this like holding cell, where then Lewis tries to run away, but he gets a throwing knife in the back, and they grab him. And then next thing you know, the judge has his iron spear that he's then heating up, and he literally puts it through Lewis's eye, which sounds very goddamn painful, to be honest with you. Eye trauma, very horrible. But yeah, he's still screaming in pain as he's then thrown into this black darkened holding cell. That's when then Jennifer speaks up for the surviving two I don't even know if Lewis is dead, but for herself and Darius, and saying how Darius is a strong warrior and how he's effective at building solutions and fixing problems and housing and all this other crap. So one of the councilmen's like, okay, he's got a use, he's a warrior. What do you offer though? He's like, I offer myself, you know, to mate and I guess help populate this area, I guess. That's one way you want to look at it. That's when the judge then has the hot spear in front of him, and he's pointing at both of them. He's like, are you guys both ready to be a loyal citizen for our community? And then he's like, if you guys try to escape, our traps will kill you, and if that doesn't kill you, the animals will kill you. And if that doesn't kill you, then the land will kill you. So essentially, you're going to die one way or another if you try to escape us. Do you understand? Then we jump cut to a community barbecue, or fire pit, campfire I should say, where they're tossing Lewis and Adam's body into the fire and, you know, just burning up all the evidence, because that's what you do in your new community, right? Yeah, that's fun. Jennifer gets taken into the judge's little home, and she's like, well, are we ever going to be able to leave? He's like, why would you want to? You know, people come in the woods looking for something, and you found it. And then he feeds her a piece of apple, and then she literally just takes off a rope. That escalated quickly. Just see like this little montage of the dad, you know, looking at papers, looking at maps and stuff, and waiting to hear from the police and not hearing anything at all. So he's just hoping the next couple days. And then we see him back in that little diner, just getting a bite to eat. And at this point, the owner of the inn comes and sits down with her, and he's like, you know, I'm sorry about your daughter. I told her to stay on the track, and that there's people living in the mountain and that they have to be worried about them. That's when the dad's like, well, what kind of people are you talking about? That's when we find out they're called the Foundation for whatever reason. We find out the Foundation was a bunch of people that moved up into the woods to rebuild the American way once civilization started to fail with the economy and everything else, which is just a weird setup altogether compared to what the original movie is all about. That's when she then mentions that this sort of thing has happened before, and he's like, well, why hasn't anything ever been done about it? And she's like, well, it's happened before, but it's also been made to look like the people have left and that, you know, there's no sign of them at all. Then we see the dad leaving the bar, and heading to his car, and that's when a couple of the rednecks from the bar and the one that he got into the conversation with earlier start grabbing him and beating him up. And then we see cop lights coming on and the sirens going, and the cop literally just drives by, and then they start grabbing him again and start beating him up and pretty much saying, you know, your daughter's dead and you don't want to see what's left of her. And next thing you know, we see him in his, you know, hotel room. You know, he's beaten and bloody and spitting into the sink, but he looks like a man who's very, very pissed off now. So next day he's getting ready to leave, and he's getting ready to head up to the trails, and the inn lady comes out. What happened to you? And whatever happened to you, it's gonna be nothing compared to what the people in the woods are gonna do to you. And she's like, you know what, actually just wait, I can actually help you. I'm not sure how she's gonna help at all, but you know, whatever works, I guess. Innkeeper then takes the dad to her nephew, who's apparently a hunter, and he has to pay him so much money, and then they're going to go in the woods together, I guess, to try and get his daughter back. I'm not sure how that's going to work out. We also find out the nephew has no love for the Foundation, and he's got like a wound on his head as a warning shot to stay away. He's like, you know what? I wouldn't mind some payback against them because they fucking suck. They're going up the trail or up through the woods, and they find a trap and they set it off. Luckily, no one gets hurt. And then they go farther up in the woods, and the dad's like, how much farther? I can't make it any longer. Please, can we just stop walking already? He's like, well, do you want to find your daughter or not? And of course, they bring the son along too, the nephew's son, and he's walking along through the woods. He literally falls through a hole, and they're trying to get him out. And as they're trying to get him out, one of their foot hits another trip line, which then brings this giant piece of wood down, which has spikes inside of it, which not going to be a good time, because as soon as the trip lines hit, Jennifer's dad looks up, and the spike piece of wood comes down and literally crushes both the nephew and the son. And he's just looking on. He's like, what the fuck just happened? Oh no, can I get my money back? I hope I can get my money back for this. It's now nighttime, and Jennifer's dad somehow makes it to the base without killing himself. I'm not sure how he didn't set it off any trap. But he's outside the wall, and behind a tree, and then he hears some like branches cracking. And the next thing he turns around, there's the Foundation in front of him, and literally just bitch slap him. And then they pull him into the Foundation area, and I think the little kid just starts kicking him in the stomach. And then one of the Foundation members takes his skull off, and it's actually Darius staring down at him. And then everyone starts coming out of the buildings, and they're just kind of staring at him. And the dad's like, well, where's my daughter? Darius, what's going on? And then he pulls out the gun, and he's got the gun aiming around, but he's pretty much surrounded. He starts shooting into the sky, which does nothing. Doesn't even intimidate them. He's like, well, what the hell's wrong with you guys? You guys are being really fucking weird. And it's at this point in time we see someone off in the distance with a bow, and they literally shoot the dad right in the shoulder, I believe it was. And then we see the back of someone walking up, and as the dad's on the ground, and we find out it's actually Jennifer who has the bow, who just shot her father. And he's like, what have they done to you? And she's not saying a word at all. And then we see the judge guy come over with a torch, and he's just like, I don't know who you are, but this girl is not your daughter. This is my wife, and you pretty much get off my land. This movie is such a weird take from the original, because it's like a cult instead of like cannibal inbreds, which so far I will say I enjoy the original much more because I like the cannibal aspect and the mutation aspect more than this. You know, they're humans that are in a cult that have their own kind of language every now and then. Kind of weird, but you know, whatever. And then her dad's stuck inside the same well looking box that she was stuck in, and then the door opens up and it's actually Jennifer, and she's like, you found your way up here, so you know a safe way back, right? And then he's like, well, yeah, kind of. And then she's like, okay, you gotta be quiet, we're gonna try and escape. And he's like, you shot me with an arrow. She's like, well, I had to do what I had to do, okay? How about you just shut up, Dad? Then the two of them meet up with Darius, who's apparently doesn't want to leave now. He's kind of a fan of the cult lifestyle. He's like, you know what, I'm kind of enjoying this new lifestyle. I'm just gonna stay here, to be honest with you. You go have a good, happy life with you. I won't stop you. We then see Jennifer and Dad going up to the like main gate, and it's locked a certain way, so they can't get out of it. That's when the little girl shows up behind them, and Jennifer goes over to talk to her. She's like, I know you like sneak out and go down the mountain every so often, but do you know the way out? Like, can you show us? So the kid starts taking her through the way out that she at least takes, which brings them into the like court area that they were originally in when they first saw Adam get executed. And Jennifer's kind of like questioning it a little bit, and she's like, no, I guess if that's the way. While they're in this courtyard area, the other brother who watched his brother get murdered comes in, if that makes sense, comes in with a girl on a leash essentially, and he starts yelling at Jennifer, and Jennifer just literally shoots him right in the stomach, and he's dead with the revolver. So then they start going down this tunnel passageway with a torch. Hopefully it's not a setup. And then we come to find out in this pathway tunnel area that they have is a bunch of people that have their eyes all ripped out, which is probably the weirdest part of the movie so far, because it's just a bunch of people with no eyes that are kind of jumping around, feeling around, acting like zombies essentially. And as she's walking through the passageway, we actually see Lewis eating some flesh in a corner, which I thought he was dead. I thought maybe he got burnt alive in that little bonfire party, but apparently that was just Adam and the other brother. So then Jennifer just takes a gun out and shoots Lewis in the face, so he doesn't have to deal with the lifestyle that he's been living the last X amount of days. I don't know how many days have passed at this point in time. They make it out of the pathway, and then they come to this cliff, and then Jennifer's like, "Do you hear that?" And then out of nowhere, the girl who sold her the bracelet, who's a crazy bitch, comes running out of the woods with a knife and tackles her to the ground, and then the two of them are rolling around on the ground, and they fall off the cliff, which it's not really a super big cliff, but it's a big enough cliff nonetheless that someone probably is dead, especially seeing they have a knife that they're fighting over. But now Jennifer and her dad are now split up, and her dad's trying to get down into the pathway, like the little cliff that she fell down, and they're trying to find each other. And then as Jennifer's walking through, some random guy just says, "I can smell your juices," which is so goddamn weird. And then he literally tackles Jennifer to the ground, and then they're kind of fighting with each other. Well, not really fighting. She's trying to fight for her life, and then she literally grabs a knife out and starts stabbing him in the chest, well on the side, and like the ribs area actually. And then she gets on top of him and then starts stabbing him in the chest, and he's not going to survive at all. He's dead. It's a pretty gruesome death. We see Jennifer's dad walking through the tunnelways trying to find Jennifer, and then he's looking down another tunnelway, and then the crazy bitch comes through running at him, and she gets her face blown off because he literally just shoots her right in the eye, and half her face is gone. And then he finds Jennifer, who's on top of that guy who just attacked her, and she's just repeatedly stabbing him in the face to the point where he's got no face now, and she's coating in blood. And he just comes over and comforts her, and he's like, "It's okay, you just you stabbed that guy probably like 600 times in the face by the looks of it, but it's okay, honey. We'll get you some medical help, and you'll be fine. Don't worry about it. You just walk it off. It's fine." Then one of the Foundation guys shows up and tries to kill him with a hatchet, and her dad goes to shoot him with the gun, but the gun's actually empty. And then out of nowhere, Jennifer just takes 2 arrows and shoots the guy in the neck and then like in the eye, right through this hole for the skull. And then they're on the race. They're trying to run for safety. Then as they're running through the woods, the hillbillies from the actual town show up, and a bunch of lights are flashed on them. And Jennifer pulls out her bow, and she's like, "Back the fuck off." He's like, "Hey, we're here to help you act." That's when we find out the guy's like, "You know what? You're right. The yellow in my eyes, what's my liver starting to fail, and I'm here to thank you because I'm trying to save you guys," because apparently his nephew also disappeared in the woods as well many years ago. And we come to find out the townspeople actually want to kill the Foundation as well because of everything that's been going on. And then the guy's like, "Well, where's all your friends?" He's like, "Well, it's just us actually." And then they have planned to get everyone off the mountain together. Not sure how that's gonna work out though, because it's the woods are gonna kill you, apparently. At least that's what the town says. And then as they're leaving, Jennifer gets like a hatchet in the back of the leg, and then one of the hillbilly guy gets a hatchet in the face. And then they're all looking around the woods trying to figure out where the hillbillies are, and then they all just start blasting their guns off into the darkness, hoping to hit someone. Then as they're all running to the vehicles to get away, we hear the judge guy yelling for Jennifer, and he's like standing off in the woods with a double-ended scythe. And then we see the hillbilly that had the liver issue literally throwing a Molotov at him to pretty much tell him to fuck off, essentially, as they're getting in their Ford pickup truck to try and get away to safety. We see now the sun's starting to come up, and Jennifer and her dad are in the backseat of the truck, and the main guy with the liver disease goes to hand them some moonshine, which apparently was his special Uncle Willie's concoction. Like, nah, we're good. He's like, "Oh, fine, suit yourself then." As we don't see like full daylight now, we just see a shot of the trees, and then we just see, I guess it's a present day ahead shot now. And we see, Jennifer, she's all cleaned up now and showing up to a house that her dad's working on. And I guess she's like a blueprint artist now, or whatever, architect. I don't know. I don't really care. But yeah, she's just, bringing off some new blueprints for her father. And he's like, "Oh, you didn't have to, we could have waited for it." And then he's, having a little father-daughter moment, saying how proud he is of her. She's like, thanks, Dad. And they have, you know, their little father-daughter hug. And then at the end, she's like, oh, don't forget, it's pizza movie night tonight, and the boys pick something with inbred cannibals. And Dad's like, again? It's like, yeah, guess so. I guess I didn't live that, so I might as well just start watching some movies about it. Then we see Jennifer getting home to visit, you know, she's bringing some groceries home, and that's when she's then shocked because apparently there's this new father-daughter who's looking at the house down the street, which is actually the judge and Ruthie, the little girl. And apparently, you know, they're might be new to the neighborhood, and the mom's already said, you know, anytime you guys want to stop in, don't worry about it, you know, just come on over. And then of course the stepmom's like, hey, would you like to stay for dinner? We're having pizza. I'm sure Scott, my husband, would love for you to, you know, stay for dinner. And that's when we also find out Jennifer's pregnant because she holds her stomach. It's like, oh boy, this is gonna be bad. Jennifer goes upstairs to get, you know, sick in the toilet, and then she grabs two knives out of her dresser drawer and comes downstairs, says, get the fuck out of the house. And then he's like, put your weapon down or I'm going to kill your whole Jennifer, when she comes down, she has two knives on her. One's in her back of her belt and the other is in her hands, and she literally throws one at him. He ducks it, moves out of the way, and then she charges down with the other one. He throws her up against the like china cabinet, and then he grabs that blade out of the wall. Literally stabs stepmom in the chest, stabs the two brothers in both the chest, and then Jennifer comes up behind him and stabs him in the back of the skull, and he's face planted down on the kitchen table now. And Jennifer's kind of like freaking out, and then next thing you know, the dead mom's body's like, Jennifer, what are you doing? And it's all not really a dream, because then we come to the realization that he is still sitting at the table, and Jennifer just staring at him and be like, you know, can you and the boys leave, because I want to just talk to him one-on-one by myself, please. Then they have a talk with one another, and she's like, well, promise me you're never going to hurt my family and I will go with you. He's like, I give you my word because you're carrying my child. And then we just see a scene of Jennifer, Ruthie, the little girl, and the court judge guy leaving the house together. It looks like they're leaving for the back door, though. At least that's how it looks like it's set up. They're heading outside to what looks to be like a cheaper version of Walter White's camper. It's this old school white camper with the orange and brown going down the side of it. And there's three more hillbillies, or sorry, cult members standing outside it. And then the RV starts driving away, and then the Wrong Turn title comes up, and then the outro credits start to play as we see the camper driving down the road, literally not stopping at the stop signs, and then we see it like starting to swerve, and then it actually crashes into a parked car as the outro music's starting to play. And we see someone trying to get out of the camper, and Jennifer literally jumps on him and starts stabbing him in the face, and then we see another guy running out of the camper holding his neck, and then Jennifer literally takes out the knife out of the guy's face and literally throws it at him, hits him in the back of the head, and then she climbs on top of that guy and starts stabbing him in the back of the head. And then we see Ruthie coming out of the camper as Jennifer is still on top of the other guy after just repeatedly stabbing him in the back of the skull. And then as the outro credits are rolling, we just see Ruthie and Jennifer holding hands together as they're walking towards the camera down the road as the campers crash off on the side of the road, and there's at least 2 dead bodies outside, and there's probably another 2 to 3, I believe, inside the camper, because apparently, you know, the judge wasn't that much of a fight at this point in time. And that brings us to the end of that movie, and I gotta say, it wasn't too bad. For a movie, I'm just gonna grade this on like a standalone movie, and I'll get to why in a minute. On a standalone movie, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. I was debating a 5 out of 5, but it's interesting. It is interesting. I'm assuming this movie, I'm hoping it's not supposed to be a general remake or redesign of the franchise. Maybe it's a prequel of sorts because of the, you know, they're a cult and then they start mating, but that doesn't make sense anyways because the main guy's dead now, because or we're assuming he's dead inside the camper. This movie, I feel like, could be a standalone movie that doesn't even need to be under the Wrong Turn series at all, because you don't see them really being cannibals. They're not mutated at all. Sure, they have their own little language that they speak, and then there's that weird aspect that they have people hiding in the tunnel systems that are blind that they use for whatever, sex and mating, whatever. It's not like the original movie. It's not like the original like series, I should say. It's definitely different. I prefer the original Wrong Turn. I like the fact that the original writer's back, but I feel like this movie didn't need to be called Wrong Turn, if that makes sense. So decent movie. I'm glad I watched it. I'm not going to revisit it probably anytime soon, but I probably will do like a drawing or two of it because the animal skull concept is cool. And the fact that they're skilled warriors kind of in the woods essentially is interesting. Like I like that they have the trap set up, but that's really the only thing that matches the original is that they have the traps and that they keep the people's belongings in this random shed. Other than that, the shed's not even inside the Foundation's area, so I'm not sure what the point of it is. It's not like if they're keeping it in their main base at all. It's just a random shed somewhere else. But yeah, anyways, we gotta pick our movie that we're going to be watching next week. All right, hear me out. I know we've been doing horror movies, but we're going to do a little bit of a curveball. We're going back on Tubi, and this movie is in the Leaving Student section, so I'm probably going to watch it actually tomorrow night, just because I want to get it done before it does disappear. It's a 1987 movie. It's a crime, drama, action movie for an hour and 59 minutes. It's directed by Dennis Hopper, starring Robert Duvall and Sean Penn. We're going to watch Colors. I haven't watched this since I was really, I don't know, I might have been in grade 9 or maybe even 7 or 8. That's a while ago. Man, I feel old. But yeah, we're going to watch Colors. So hopefully you guys will check out that episode, and it should be a lot of fun. I'm definitely looking forward to watching it. It's been a while. Hopefully you guys will stick around. And as always, make sure to check out the outro band, Toronto-based horror band Blood Opera. All their links will be down in the show notes below. But you can find them on Instagram, Spotify, YouTube, SoundCloud, Facebook, pretty much anything and everything. And then also, if you want to, check out my social media links. They'll be linked down below as well at Typhonside, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok. But the main thing that we're pushing right now is the YouTube channel, because we're starting to, push that a lot more. It's been a while. We've been pushing it for a while now. We're trying to get that 1,000 subs and the 1,000 watch hours or whatever. Once we can start making money on that, that'd be sweet. But that's not a priority at all. And maybe one of these days we'll get a Patreon set up and I'll do some extra content. I'm not sure
what content I would do, but I still want to do mini episodes, so we'll see. It's just making the time to do everything. It's a lot of work for one person, the recording and the editing and everything. So we'll see how it goes. But until next time, I'll talk to you guys all later. Take it easy. Until next time, peace.
I am the whisper in the classroom, the writing on the wall. What's blood for, if not for shedding?
You used to play that childhood game, didn't you? The one where we chant his name. Was it true? Staring in the mirror, I can say, come to me. I can hear him calling back to me. Be my victim, Candyman. When I say his name again, and then he will appear. My whole world was it for real this time, or a dream? Was it in my